here with a video I think might be a little popular. So I just came from a track meet where my oldest son won first place in the 200 meter. Boom! If you're a parent, you know that there's no better feeling than that. But I actually have a few extra hours I didn't expect to have, which never happens. So I thought I would do my first unboxing and assembly and review of Moducases. This is a big if in the collector community right now, which we're going to talk a little bit more about, but maybe this will give you a better idea whether these are what's in store for you or not. And this is my first unboxing. I'm going to literally unbox a box. And I'm going to speed through some of the parts, and I'm not sure how I'm going to edit this, so give me a break. And let's get started. So I already cut the tape off. Each of the Moducases comes with corner packing, or the plates on the corners to so let's get this guy open, throw him to the side. Sorry, dear. Quite a few different pieces. Some of the pieces inside of it are just packing, and actually, oh shit, did I just cut something? Oh, I did. It's okay. And we're actually going to pause because I want to take pictures of everything for you guys. So, again, like I said, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do this, so pause it. So right here is what it looks like on the inside. Kind of give you an idea. So, first, I'm going to open this piece right here. I can't remember what's in it. I've already assembled 5 or 6. It's the framing. So the framing is right here. To kind of give you an idea, there's a picture of it.
And the framing. So framing.
Also in here we have a case. This is a case to hide the wire for the light. This is the actual LED light. Here is a power cable. Here is packing. Here are some screws, nuts, and bolts. Here is rubber to put in between the seams to hide wires and other parts of it. More trash. This is the bottom base, which I also ordered extra for the top bases, which we're going to talk about. This right here is the back or top panel. It could probably fit for either one. I'm running out of spots. Here are connection kits if you're going to connect this to another display. Here is trash. Shit, that was really close to a Prime 1 toothpaste. Here is a side panel, so you have the acrylic sheet in the middle. It's protected with a brown stick-on paper. Put this over here for now. I had to wear pants for this video. It kind of bummed me out. Otherwise it'd be flagged by YouTube. Here is your front panel. Again, acrylic glass covered up. We have more packing. And we have the other framed acrylic glass for the side. And then you have some packing on the bottom for the acrylic glass. Not glass. I'm saying acrylic glass, there's no such thing. This is kind of awkward. So, you can look up directions like a pansy, or you can be a man and try and put it together. I looked up directions like a pansy and I still have to follow them. So now everything is unboxed, and let's take a quick inventory of what we have. As you see this picture right here, we have an entire table. It seems pretty simplistic with how many different parts, other than the fact when you look at how many different screws, nuts, and bolts there are. So really quick first, here is the material covered bottom piece. So this is going to be your bottom. So this is actually the last thing I install, so we're going to go ahead and put this guy to the side while we look at the back panels in the front, the back and top panel right here. One unique feature, you see a white sticker on here, it tells you what is the inside and what is the top. And we're going to talk about these guys when we get to them, but for now, we're just going to put them to the side so we can have more room. Then this middle part right here, this is the acrylic sheet that has magnets on it, so this is our front display. Again, this is the last thing we put on. I stand corrected. So I'm going to put it to the side over here. Then you see we have a number of, as I said, nuts, bolts, screws, light, and I put the cord cover to the side, power cord, all that good stuff. And this, just like everything else, we're going to keep nearby because we're going to use some screws and some of the Allen wrenches here. The light, however, we are going to put to the side. Picture here, these are the acrylic sides. You can tell they're the sides because they have the framing pre-built around them, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Also, a side note here, we're leaving the material, the protective material cover on there so we don't scratch it up while we're building and making a mess. This is weird doing a building video instead of a statue review for the note. And also I don't have my microphone and lights set up correctly because it's a weird display. I'm getting shit all over my table, that's pissing me off. But let's move back to your 4 aspects of the frames. These 4 bars right here are the structure of your frame. So the top 2 are for the front. You know it's for the front because they have the magnets on them to hold the removable acrylic piece in place. The one at the very top, you know it's the top because there's a screw hole for the safety clasp. The 2 at the bottom are for the back side of the display because there are no screw holes and they are interchangeable. So the way I like to put it together is I start with one of the acrylic sides. Now, a special note about these sides, there are openings right here that the screws right here actually just slide right in. And this is the wrong one, but we're just going to do it. See that? So I did that, and here's a close-up picture. So this is where I like to start to build mine. I use a base, or one of the sides essentially as a base, and then I pretty much connect them as so. So that's what we're going to do next. Now as you slide it in gently, because the screws can be a different length, so sometimes there's a little bit of resistance, but you just push harder and harder. No, that's what she said. That's not the way to do it. You just adjust the length of the screws to fit into that groove. One of the things you want to make sure you look for is make sure that you are sliding it in so the holes, as you see here, will match up. Now, one of the most important things is when you're looking at these sides, they do go a specific way. Right here, and I'm going to take a picture in a second, you can see that there's magnets on this side, so that indicates it's the front. So use that initial top and bottom bar that I was showing you. So here we have it. I know this is the front, and I'm going to use this, even though it's going to be the side. So essentially, this is how the Moducase is going to look, like so, with the glass plate up front. I'm going to use this kind of as a base to start. So the most important part here, which if you screw up and start putting it together and realize later you're going to kill someone, is if you put the wrong bar. So I know this is the front. That means it has to use those 2 front pieces with magnets. So I'm going to actually start and designate this the top right here. So I'm going to slide in, and again the screw's a little long here. Now, one note, as you saw, I was adjusting the screws there. I like to, the screws on both sides just need to be of equal length. I like to give them a little more length to start with because it gives me a little bit more maneuvering room when I'm trying to put all the pieces together. So just kind of a friendly tip on that. And you may have seen me flip that over. The reason I did that, the screws that are in there are already too tightly in, so it wouldn't fit, and just for the sake of time. So that will happen. If it's too close, it will not fit in the groove. So now I have a decision to make. Do I lift this up and tighten these screws from the bottom side through the hole? So you make sure they align with the holes as you see here so that you can put the Allen wrench in and tighten the screws. So that's one option. The disadvantage to that is if I make them too tight, there's not much room to connect the additional pieces. If I leave them loose, the risk is that they will actually fall out. So we're going to go ahead and kind of do something in the middle, and you're not going to be able to see me while I do it, but we are going to semi-tighten them. This way these bars do not fall out while we're moving it back and forth. And just so you know, I think these are a lot easier to assemble on the ground than they are up on a table here, so this is really throwing me off. You saw that move as I assembled it, or sorry, as I tightened it. And to be honest with you, this is going to be one of the hardest parts of assembly. Not necessarily just tightening one side, but trying to line up the other side to get it tightened in. So, now if you recall, right here was the back side, and that is the front side. So, we're going to do one of these. So again, this is how the case is set up. The front side is facing you. I know that because there should be magnets right here, and here is the screw hole for the clasp. So essentially we're going to duplicate this process on the other side. However, before we do that, we want to put in the back paneling where I am, and we want to put on the paneling on the top. So I'm going to grab those. So right here, and again, they have stickers on them to tell you what is the inner side and where it goes. This guy slides in at the top. Now, there is a lot of give because I have not fully tightened the screw, so it doesn't stay in that well. So to be honest with you, the best strategy, which I usually do, but I haven't, is to flip this back on its ass again. You just have to remember what is the top and what is the bottom. So one other note too. There are 4 screw holes on the top panel right here. Those go towards the front. I forgot to mention that. Very important. I actually don't know why it's important, but it is. And as you see here, in a perfect world, if this was nice and tight, it would slide right in. But it doesn't because I don't have it that tight. But it can at least be a start for us. So there we go. And I don't want to move it because it might fall down. Okay, I was wrong before. That other panel, it doesn't slide in. We actually screw it to the back. I just forgot. It's been a week since I put one together. So the next step is mirroring this to this, which this is why we wanted a little bit of give in these legs right here, or these frames, because essentially we're going to have to slide this in so the screws out here fit well in the grooves. So the number one thing I do that makes it a lot easier through trial and error is I make sure each screw is about the same length as its partner and as well as the other pieces. And keep in mind this black panel is still slightly loose because we don't have it tightened yet. So my guess is when we try and slide this in and it's very difficult on a table, this will fall out, which is okay because we can try and fix it later. So number one important thing, make sure the magnets are in the front. I've assembled a few backwards, and then you have to redo everything. Actually, we're going to try from this side.
It's really hard with bright lights.
So, see how that slides in? Now, the problem is because it's not even, the grooves start to move a little bit. This is where it's so much easier to do on the floor. So I'm actually going to come around here. You get to see my ass. And as you see, I didn't tighten it enough down here, so it already moved some. This is very hard to do on a table. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the camera and slide this all the way in on the ground. It's just easier to do that way, so hang on. Okay, I'm back. You can see my head a little. So there's some good and bad things here. First, the top cardboard insert fell out like I said it would. Second, it's very difficult to slide in all 8 points at the same time by yourself. So I'm having a little bit of difficulty, and I want to show you this because this is the hardest part of assembly. So essentially you have to line up all 4 pieces of the frame with the sides at the exact same time and tighten it at the exact same time. And I'm by myself. So you're going to see some magic happen here. Now one thing, note, you saw me slamming that. I have used a light hammer with a towel to get a few things in position as needed before. But I'm going to go ahead and tighten these now. Just get them flush with the sides. Now keep in mind, if you remember, I haven't tightened the bottom ones yet either, so those will slide out of place. After we get all the top ones in place, we're going to flip it over and try and get the insert back in and then tighten it. So, and again, I want to re-emphasize, I'm doing this on a table, which makes it incredibly difficult. And you can kind of see right here, this is why it's good that you have some give. So you can kind of maneuver those around. And another trick I learned too is sometimes you got to adjust the length of the screws to get it in just right, like that. And as you tighten each one, just kind of a heads up, other ones, especially on the other side, will loosen. So just because you have it tight doesn't mean it's good to go.
Okay, so
Okay. So we have the 8 screws on top, 2 on each corner, tightened as best as they can go, but keep in mind they're going to loosen when we flip this. So we're going to flip it up here. And some of the inside rubber just came off, but that's not a big deal. So now we're going to tighten these sides, and as a reminder, as you tighten these, the other ones will loosen, so be prepared. And before I go any further, actually, remember we forgot to put that panel back in, or I did. So now we got to get our bearing what's what. So we know these are the sides, so what's the top, what's the bottom? Well, as a reminder, the top has this screw hole in the middle. So this is going to go on the top. The punctured holes go towards the front, so we're going to try and ghetto rig it into this lip here, which isn't going to go very well, but we can pop it in sideways. Again, very difficult on this table here. So I'm not able to pop it in, which happens quite often. Which is why you really want to have this on before you construct the other side acrylic sheet. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to loosen some of these to give us a little more leeway, which is very dangerous because then we may not be able to get them back on. And this is, the reason I'm showing you this and showing you the difficulty with this, it is the hardest part of assembling the Moducases, at least in my opinion.
Which you can't see, but it'll take me about half as long if I can. Or not.
So probably what I've found the best way to get the front panel back in is actually undo some of the work you did, which is very, very dangerous. So one of the ways to get the cardboard sheet back in is actually to remove one of the pegs you just did. That way you can slide it back in. And as a reminder, always keep your bearings. And this is, I'm showing you all this and all this difficulty because in my opinion, this is the hardest part of assembling Moducases. The back is the second hardest part, but this is just a pain. Especially, maybe it's because I'm doing them all by myself, but
I'm an idiot. And I tell you to keep in mind that you make sure you are aware of what's going on. This is the back. The reason this isn't fitting in is because this is the fucking back. It could be the top. And lastly, this is where that little bit of give that we kind of left, by not screwing everything in tight all the way is very, very helpful.
and voila. So we're going to slide this bar back on, and keep in mind when we do, we're going to have to get this cardboard into the groove track, which one little piece is easier than a entire. Make sure we get it in the correct groove track. Okay, so lastly, let's get this piece back on, and keep in mind you're going to have to get that cardboard piece back in the groove track and put these in the groove at the same time. So there is a little bit of difficulty with that. And then you get that great feeling when it actually aligns and pops in. And now you just need to know you need to tighten the screws. And the hardest part of this is over. Still a decently difficult part. Okay, so first I hope you guys appreciate this sacrifice. Scratched the shit out of my table. Oh well. So I tightened all the screws. You didn't need to see me doing that. And now this is how it looks. This is the back side of it. Again, we know it's the back side because there's no magnets. So on here, we are actually going to place the cardboard backing. And again, it has a number of small holes all throughout, which we're going to take a picture right now. And then you also see the large holes, which I believe are intended to be on the bottom, but I actually like them on the top because that's where I have the cables coming out of. So, another thing you see with this, again, it has a sticker showing what the inside is. So we're going to flip it around, and this is how we're going to connect it. Well, how do we connect it? Well, as you can see, there's screw holes, but there's absolutely nothing to screw in to the grooves. So, we actually have, and somebody who is in construction, or any type of trade for that matter, can educate me and all the viewers as to what these are. So here's a picture of them up close. And these are actually the things we place inside of the groove holes for the screw to latch onto. So for example, we put it right in, and for me to pop it in, I actually use the Allen wrench, just pops it in really nice. So here's a close-up of that. And while they're in there, you can actually move them back and forth. And the reason you need to move them back and forth is because you need to align them with where the small holes on here are. So on this Max case, there are 3 on the bottom, 3 on the top, and 4 on the side, so 12 total. So now we're going to insert all of those. And kind of a side note, when I install this, I usually like to have the back facing up, so I'd flip it like this. It's usually much easier. Now, I have a few where I just couldn't get these holes to line correctly, so I didn't input all the screws, especially when you think about the really large cases that have like 30 of these. Maybe not that many, but pretty close. So you do have that option to leave a few screws out. It looks a little weird from the back, but who the hell is looking at the back of these? And as I assemble this too, I don't really know if this is the right way. I just briefly looked at the directions, but it works really well and keeps them stable. So now, the best way to do this that I've found, personally, is you line this up with how you're going to input it, and then you'll just slide these devices right over to the approximate location of your holes before you even start. And I actually apologize, I was thinking of a different model. There's only 3 of these on each side, so.
Oh, looks like I might have extra ones.
Alright, so the next step is pretty simple. It's taking the screws and screwing it in. So one thing I do a double check, make sure all the lines are flush, and then I actually put my Allen wrench through the cardboard piece to make sure the hole is correctly aligned. And again, I've never done this from the side. I always do it where essentially the front is down and this is on top. And it seems to work pretty well. And there's a bunch of washers that come with this, so maybe you're supposed to do this with washers on it. I don't really know. Probably says in the directions. You know, I just thought of one thing. It's funny. I'm trying to make sure that my body's not in the way, but so I'm kind of screwing these in from an awkward angle. It's probably, my body probably is in the way because I'm trying to get it out of the way, and I wouldn't even know. And the cool thing is, this is probably the second hardest part, and it's not, this part's not hard, where the other one is frustrating. This is just kind of tedious. And every once in a while, the device that that we laid in there to screw into, it pops out like that right there. Perfect. Perfect example. So we got to kind of lay that back in. And ironically, that's the one we had too many in, so it works really well.
Yeah, my phone is just blowing up. But you have to try and take some time during the day. See, frustrating. Annoying is really the better answer.
There goes another one. So we're going to fast forward through this for you guys, but we'll get them all on there. Okay, so that's done. As you see here, a few areas it wouldn't stretch correctly. I couldn't get the screws, but it's not really going to matter. This is the back, the outside of the back, to kind of give you an idea. And this is the top. So now we're going to move to the sides here. And now you can remove the protective paper over the acrylic glass. However, we're going to wait because we have a few other things we're planning on doing. On the inside, now is when I like to install the lights. So next thing we're going to do is connect the lights. This right here is the bright LED light, and it has a male and a female end. So you have to decide, how am I going to connect? My power outlet actually is male, so obviously it'll need to go into the female. So I'll want this on whatever side will be closer to the male. With that being said, the different power outlets you can connect to other lights, you can do a whole plethora of things, and it comes with 3M double-sided self-adhesive tape. So if you peel off the, my children home already? No? It's probably my wife leaving to get the children. So another thing, I have trouble because I don't have nails peeling these off. So I actually stole my wife's tweezers a long time ago for statue-related items. Here they are. So I actually use this just to get it off because putting these together is extremely frustrating. So any little tip you can give yourself that'll help speed up the process. And it's actually a good thing that I'm trying to assemble this on a table because it makes it incredibly difficult. So you guys can kind of get an idea how it's going to be the first time you try and assemble one on the floor.
Okay, so I'm gonna actually which way am I?
Do it like this. And then what I do is I just press it right against the back here so it'll be hidden as well as possible. And I center it. I press down the cardboard backing on top, which is actually what it's adhering to. So that's done there. Next, we are going to connect the cable. And actually, this piece right here, I'm going to connect to another cabinet, so I'm going to do it a little bit differently here. I had to get my thoughts together, so actually we are going to go through this side. So I'm going to feed the male in through the back, because I heard he likes it in the back. Some males do. So right here is the cord cover we're going to use. So it's just a simple standard cord cover. Slides in, slides out. So first I'm going to pull this one all the way through, connect it, simple, easy. And then I am going to remove the double-sided tape backing. Get my tweezers again. So then here we will connect, or put the cable in, pull the extra slap through the back, and put the cord cover on. I keep remembering I'm trying to give you a good view in the camera, and you can't see it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Alright, so that's installed. Now, I don't want to say it's the fun part, because it's actually really annoying. Now we can actually take off the coverings. And a lot of these rubber inserts that go in the grooves here always fall out during assembly, and they give you a ton of extra ones as well. So I'm not quite sure the point of those. So everything's peeled off there, and as I said, all of the grooves here have this rubber inserts, these inlays, which pop out during assembly. And part of it is there to keep the acrylic glass from shaking, which makes sense. And they give you tons and tons of spares too. So for example, inserting this one back into the back here. Keep talking about the back. Pretty easy assembly. Obviously you can cut them as needed to make them fit, which we do need to cut this one. So really there's just two more parts to this that you absolutely have to do, and that we're going to do. And that includes putting the bottom in, which is the easiest part of assembling a Moducase. Still really shaky. And putting the front on. So first, let us put the bottom in. And it's as easy as you think. I put it in diagonally to give me a little bit of room here. And you do want to notice the front ledges and the back ledges should be about the same, but just in case here. There we have it. Now, a couple things with this. I didn't do the reinforced bar, and I didn't have to do shelves on this, so there is a lot more to it. So the last piece is taking that front side with the magnets, your front acrylic display, and just sticking it right on there. One of the things is we can install the safety clasp screw that goes on the outside of this, essentially right in here. Take a look at that guy. And here's a picture of it, just in case that looked bad. So then more tearing off of the protective covering, which is a pain in the ass, especially on the bigger cabinets. And I've torn off one side here, so see this side has no magnets, it's a felt, just similar to the bottom here. Felt, that's the word I couldn't think of earlier. And sometimes you have trouble kind of getting any traction on these, so that's why my wife's tweezers come into play. But they disappeared again. Do you ever have things at your house that disappear? For me, it's chapstick, fingernail clippers, and apparently tweezers. Oh well. So we'll try and do this without fingernails.
That just happened. But, Moducases. Strong like bull. So we're going to push this back.
And the reason why I kept flipping it upside down, because it looks like they felt it over where the safety clasp goes. I haven't used the safety clasp in any of mine, and I don't really intend to, because it kind of holds up well without it, which we'll talk about during the review. One nice thing, they do have this little pad, felt cloth, to clean, which this is probably the dirtiest one I've had because it was so awkward putting it together on a table in front of a camera. So that is the assembly of the Moducase Max 70. Tomorrow, I'm going to film it right now, we are going to do a review on Moducases. So that's the assembly video. I really appreciate you guys bearing with me. I've never done an unboxing before, and I've clearly never done anything this elaborate. And putting this together on the table made it about 3 times as hard as it usually is. And also on a side note, just so you know, if you do 2 in a row, the second one takes you half the time the first one did. So I really hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you have any of these on order. And stay tuned. Tomorrow I will air the review of it and all the features. So thanks so much. Take care.